Okay, I am back with one of my all-time favorite guests, and you guys love her too, Miss Sara Banta. And today we are we're going to be talking about her new Accelerated Thyroid supplement that she came out with. So we're going to dive into that at the end. But hold on, I really want to talk about the mental health connection with thyroid. So this is going to be a game changer for you, and you can probably hear the excitement in my voice. The latest introduction, the latest member of the family to the Fixxr line is Metabolism Fixxr. And this, oh my God, I formulated this just for all my people out there that need to lose weight, that need help in the weight loss department, that can't lose weight no matter what they do, that feel like they have a slow metabolism, and that might be thinking of trying all those peptides out there, you know, the Beverly Hills soccer mom drug of choice for weight loss peptides. Or even if you're on them already and you're like, man, these are really expensive and I'm still not losing weight, add in Metabolism Fixxr. Here's what I did. I took the power of T2, which increases your basal metabolic rate while you are sitting there watching Netflix. You're burning fat while you're watching Netflix. I combined it with a very unique patented ingredient called Suppressa. Suppressa has multiple clinical trials backing its efficacy in reducing your appetite, decreasing snacking, and providing way more control over your food intake. It is amazing. We also see improved emotional well-being, just decreased food cravings all around, reduced hunger, and weight management. Add on top of that, we have green tea extract, we have purple forest purple tea extract, both of which affect the metabolism in a very positive way without the jitters of normal fat burning supplements out there from the 1980s and 90s, right? The ones that made you feel like you're having a heart attack. You will not have that in any of my supplements, Thyroid Fixxr or Metabolism Fixxr. But Metabolism Fixxr, ooh, yeah, we kicked it up a notch. It is in powder form, so you can drink it through your day. It's going to flavor your water. We got orange crush and refreshing citrus. I love them both. It is going to keep you under control all day long. So you throw a couple scoops in your water bottle in the morning, throw a scoop or two in your water bottle throughout the day. You will have fat burning and appetite control the entire day for what? An eighth of a price of the peptides? Oh my God, you can't go wrong. So grab some Metabolism Fixxr today. Please let me know how you do on it. I am super excited for you. Super excited. A lot of you are dealing with depression and anxiety, and sometimes that can come down to fixing your thyroid. Sometimes that can come down to low iodine, or maybe you're not taking it at all. There are so many Band-Aids being used in society today with antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications that we really need to get to the root of what is causing these mood disorders in our population. Now, some of you might absolutely need an antidepressant, and I don't want you to be turned off by this talk because we respect that and we acknowledge that. And there are certain parts of the population that have a brain chemistry disorder. The brain chemistry is just off, neurotransmitters are off. But even with that, there are things that we can do nutraceutically, supplementally, nutritionally that can make a huge impact, possibly reducing what you do need. Because what I see in my practice and what I've even spoken to integrative doctors about is the fact that with depression, we tend to stack, or with anxiety, we tend to stack the medication. So here's an antidepressant, here's an anti-anxiety. If that doesn't work, we're going to try a combination of 2 and 3 others. And then that is just putting a stressor on the body with medications that you might not need. So if you do fall into that category that, hey, maybe you do need an antidepressant, let's use the lowest dose possible. And let's make sure that we are balancing things like thyroid and hormones and supporting your whole body and your nutrient status as well. So with me again is Sara Banta. Sara, thank you so much for joining me. I love our conversations. Just love them.
I do too. They're so much fun. I always look forward to these conversations. I wake up with like this extra pep in my step. And Amie, this is such a passionate topic for me, especially, I don't know why God's brought this to me, but I've talked to so many teenagers, especially right now, who are not necessarily into natural medicine. In fact, their parents are kind of on the Western side, but they're open to what I have to say because I might have solutions that their doctors aren't giving them. But a lot of them are going to their doctors and being put on the antidepressants and to be put on actually birth control. We were just talking about birth control, but the doctor's saying, oh, well, it's hormonally related. Your depression is related to your cycle. And no one is testing thyroid. I've actually asked, I said, can I see your blood test? And what are your thyroid numbers? But let's take a step back. And you've got T4, which is the main thyroid hormone, and it's inactive and it needs to be converted into T3. However, due to stress, and you tell me what teenager is not stressed right now, let alone all of us in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s aren't dealing with chronic stress. That can be related to, the fear that's going on, just the financial situation, the fact that our bodies can't even deal with the stress because we have backed up livers. And so if our liver's backed up, the compounding perceived stress is a lot higher than our stress. So I actually was listening to Sarah Gottfried talk about, she doesn't care about the stress that you have, but more of the perceived stress. Yes, we are going to all be stressed. There's stressors in life, but how are you perceiving it? And that's a whole nother topic. But due to that conversion might not happen from T4 to free T3. Then you've got blood sugar is released inactively or inefficiently. Metabolism will decrease, energy decreases, and then there's this vicious cycle. You've got the HPT axis, so the hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis, then the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, and then even the HPG axis, the hypothalamus pituitary gonadal axis. And all of these axes play in the playground together. So as your stress increases, the adrenals release the stress hormones like cortisol and epinephrine. The HPT axis will then convert T4 to reverse T3, slowing down the metabolism as the survival mechanism. And as a result, your mood decreases, which then can increase perceived stress more, creating this vicious cycle. And then it's also going to affect your HPG axis. Now, growing up, I never was really depressed, but I had PCOS. And I know that my cycle was very affected by my mood and my stress. So hands down, I was stupid back then, but you tell me back then what's causing issues in your cycle, and I'd say, well, stress, exercise, whether it's exercise, too much exercise, or it was just stress and studying for finals because I was type A personality, whatever it was. All of these three things are affecting each other, right?
Right.
So then you've got hyper and hypo have both been linked to oxidative stress and inflammation produced by the excess chronic stress, which can inflame the brain and the gut. And this is where the neurotransmitters are manufactured. And this further declines the mood. And then you've got T4 converts into T3 in the gut, the liver, and the kidneys, as you know. So if the gut microbiome is off, or the liver's backed up, and anyone who listens to me knows that I promote doing a liver flush 3 to 4 times a year to make sure you're letting go of those liver stones, but also letting go of the anger and the frustration, the emotions that are held in that liver. And if the kidneys are functioning suboptimally, then that can also affect the thyroid. The kidneys hold fear. So who's not experiencing fear in this global environment? Or maybe we've let it go a little bit, realizing that we all need to wake up a little more. There's these emotions that inflame the kidneys, Well, if the kidneys are inflamed because they're also holding on the adrenals on top of them, and the adrenals are burned out from chronic stress, then you've got water retention, which will make any woman depressed, right?
Right.
So just that in itself, you've got all of these things that are connected. And then you've got the neurotransmitters like GABA, dopamine, and serotonin that are made in the gut. If the gut's compromised, it will lead to mood disorders and ineffective T4 to T3 conversion. But the liver's where most of that conversion happens. And that will also, like I said, and make the mood disorders even worse. And then you've got what's called thyroid stress. And this is an emotional state just from extreme apprehension, discomfort, or knowing that you have thyroid disease. So it's this, and you can't get out. It's like having the flu. You know that you're going to feel better in 3 or 4 days versus just feeling nauseous for no reason and not knowing what it is. It's almost this like, I'm just going to wake up tomorrow feeling nauseous. So I'm almost nauseous just thinking about being nauseous.
Right.
So it's like you've got this stress over having thyroid disease. And so you've got that also then impacting your gonadal hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And as you talk about, testosterone is that feel-good, amazing hormone. And yes, I had PCOS. Yes, I've always been high in testosterone, but I love that testosterone. I want to balance the other hormones so that my hair doesn't fall out, and my skin doesn't break out, but I want to keep that testosterone. And that's why I take hormone Fixxr every single day. But then you've got this, as estrogen goes down, thyroid hormone goes down. So a significant change in your sex hormones can also cause a change in your thyroid hormones. And as we are getting older into perimenopause and menopause, it's normal. I should say normal, but not okay for us to have hypothyroidism. And this change, these hormonal changes can contribute to symptoms of anxiety and irritability and be misdiagnosed as just aging. Oh, the doctor says this is normal. This is how every woman is supposed to feel. Yes, you're supposed to just gain weight, be okay with it, buy a larger pant size and go away. This is why we're just all misdiagnosed and not tested for thyroid. And then also most hypothyroidism also have PCOS. And PCOS, no doctor ever told me that it was connected to insulin resistance. I've had 3 kids, but when we got married, I knew right out the gate that I needed to focus on getting pregnant because I didn't know if I was going to be able to get pregnant. Chance number 1, got pregnant in the middle of winter, which is a very popular time. My guess is that December, New Year's Eve, the body's cold. So maybe my body was holding on to a little extra body fat. I don't know, because I really had no testing back then. Got pregnant, no problem. Second time I went to get pregnant, it was difficult. But then what started happening in my brain was, Sara, you're not going to be able to get pregnant. And yes, I have PCOS. So what did the doctor tell me? Let's give you some Clomid. Did they say anything about my thyroid? No. Did they test for it? No. Did they test for insulin resistance? No. No one tested for any of that. They put me on Clomid. Thank God I got pregnant right away, and I didn't need months and months of it. It was month number 1. That was great. But then chance number 3, it was kind of like, hey, we don't know if we're going to stick with 2 or 3 kids. Let's just not do any birth control. And mind you, I was stupid back then, knew nothing. Feeding my son microwavable corn dogs. So this was the state of mind I was in. And that number 3, ironically, got pregnant the same time of year in December, had the same due date for child number 3 as I did child number 1. So there was something going on in my body, but I was not a regular person being able to count 28 days and what my cycle is. I had PCOS. I had suboptimal thyroid. and it was obviously intertwined with my hormones. What was the chicken and the egg? I don't know. But as soon as I corrected my thyroid issues, corrected my insulin resistance, I could easily get pregnant. Yep. Now that I don't want to get pregnant. So there's definitely a connection, and I saw it in myself. And these are things that I'm watching my two daughters. I've got one daughter that is prone to endometriosis and one that's going to be prone to PCOS. So we have to play around with their hormones and optimize their thyroid. And I see how it plays with their mood as well. Yep. So when I talk to my clients about signs that your thyroid might be the problem with your mental health, you look at fatigue, brain fog and depression, that unexplained weight gain, insomnia, chronic stress, and then just bouts of manic and depressive states. But the real question is, okay, so are you on an antidepressant? Yes. Is it working? Because 30 to 50% of people are not getting a response from their antidepressant.
Right.
And when we talk about kids, and I'm asking elementary school kids, Amie, this is crazy. I have a friend who's a teacher, and she says that 29 out of her 30 kids in her fourth grade class are on an antidepressant, anti-anxiety, or ADHD.
Come on. Oh my God. Yeah. You just floored me right now. Okay.
Yeah. And that is, you take that and you go, okay, well, is that just overprescribing? Yes. That's parents not applying a healthy diet. I'm not talking about ketogenic. Let's just get rid of the processed foods.
Yeah.
And let's just start looking at the oils, maybe a little bit. You know, these kids in elementary school, some of them don't have obesity. So they don't look at food. They look at just, they don't have a weight problem. So yeah, they can have the Skittles at lunch and the fruit juice and all of this stuff. And I actually have a family member who's 18 years old, and she said she eats not very well. And she said, well, Aunt Sarah, how am I going to know when I have to start eating right? And I said, well, how are your hormones? And she says, I have no problems. And she's, thin, but she's tired all the time. And I'm like, you might need to look at your diet, because it's not just what you're not eating, but it is what you're eating. It's both. So just that's a little sidebar on the diet for most people, not just kids. But are your medications working? If they're not, then no amount of antidepressant is going to upregulate your thyroid, which is the root of the issue. And it may be the root of the issue for the PCOS or the erratic periods or the libido or infertility or your autoimmune. And that's where you have to look at the thyroid numbers. So I'll stop right there and because I just went on for a while.
No, that's all right. You dropped so many bombs. We just got to unpack it. I love absolutely everything that you just said, and you blew me away with a couple of those stats. So yeah, let's start with the thyroid. We'll kind of trickle down to food and hormones and even kind of getting into, you said, okay, not necessarily the ketogenic diet, but I want to talk about glucose as fuel versus ketones as fuel, and how we can even use your accelerated keto to boost brain function. So let's go back. Let's start with the thyroid. I 100% agree with you. I think number one, with antidepressants, they are SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And the stat that you gave is 100% on point, because what ends up happening is that serotonin pathway, for lack of a better scientific explanation, gets clogged up. So everybody that starts on an antidepressant usually experiences something within the first few weeks to the first few months. Maybe you experience some of the side effects and you go, oh no, that's not for me. Or maybe you do experience some of the mood boosting, anxiety numbing effects of that antidepressant, anti-anxiety. But then after a while, people report that it stops working, because if you don't actually have a low serotonin problem, because, we've heard this cliche all the time. You're not Prozac deficient, right? None of us are walking around needing to replace our bodies with an antidepressant. We're not deficient in Prozac or Xanax. We're deficient in something that is creating that low mood or that high mood of anxiety and agitation. So when we give people these antidepressants, they think that they're working, but then they need a higher dose. They need an add-on. They need 2 add-ons to even feel better. And even with that, they keep stacking it and stacking it. And most of the time you will talk to individuals on an antidepressant and they will tell you, I guess it kind of works. I'm worse when I go off of it, but it's not really working like it used to be. And that's where we have to come back to thyroid and, like you said, hormones, to really start addressing that and optimizing that. So now, Sara, do you have your own, because I know you deal with hypothyroidism too, and people watching probably don't even believe it because you're so fit and you're so in shape, and you and I are both optimized. So we're kind of walking billboards of what it can be to have an optimized thyroid and optimized hormones. But did you ever struggle with anxiety or depression? I want you to tell your story, and then I'll share my experience as well.
My depression was essentially thyroid stress or non-optimizing ability to not getting answers from the doctor and not knowing. Yes, I had a gut that was so wrecked that when I first went to my natural practitioner, who is now one of my mentors, he said, I don't know how you even walked into this door. Your happy hormones are on the floor. Your digestion is halted. You can eat and the food is still stuck in your stomach, literally rotting, causing food poisoning for 5 hours. I'm like, thank you. And I started crying when he said this, because finally someone was listening to me after I had been to the GI doctor, after I'd been to the regular doctor, and no one was giving me answers. Oh, you've got IBS. Here you go, and see you later. No answers. And yes, I'm optimized now. I know a lot about Ayurvedic medicine, and they talk about the different body types, or Kapha and Pitta, and I am Kapha, which means that you retain extra water. Well, you look at me and you go, well, you don't look like you do. That's because of the accelerated thyroid with one of the Ayurvedic herbs in there, the Kanchanara, that helps balance out the water in your body. And so I've been taking herbal supplements to help with all of these factors that go into what my body and my composition is lacking. So I'm one that can get edema very quickly. I can get water retention or bloat very easily. I have to really strengthen my digestion and spleen through different things. And that's another thing that thyroid affects. So if you have hypothyroidism, your digestion is going to lag. You're going to be constipated. And did you know 80% of women are constipated, and they don't talk about it? And 80% of women,
they think it's normal. They think it's just another day. I'll have women say, I poop once every 3 days. I'm like, what? And they think it's normal.
No. Any mom out there knows that their baby pooped every time they ate. Now, I know that maybe that's unrealistic, but pooping 2 to 3 times a day is ideal and something to strive for. I do like that. So with that, that's where the Accelerated number one is. Iodine is the number one predictor for depression. It also helps with increasing IQ and apoptosis. What is apoptosis? It's the destruction of diseased and damaged cells. And it also happens the most time during pregnancy and puberty, because there's so much turnover that's happening. That's why it's really important for pregnant women and kids to be on the Accelerated. So that's number one. But it just lifts your mood. It clears the halogens and the toxins out of the brain. The other thing that we didn't even touch on is that some of the thyroid's the master endocrine gland, but it also, you've got heavy metals and the spike protein and fluoride and chlorine and bromide that displace iodine throughout the body.
Yep.
And so with all of these serious exposure to radiation from Chernobyl and Fukushima, all of this radiation is causing an even more dramatic detrimental effect to our whole endocrine system if we don't have enough iodine in our bodies. When we have a sufficient iodine, then the body cannot absorb those other halogens or toxins or radiation. So if there's not enough iodine in the body, then those halogens go straight for the thyroid, for the pineal gland, and they clog them up. That's where you get your brain fog, some of your depression, slows down your thyroid, all of these things. And the spike protein is also affecting the DNA, and it's causing issues with insulin resistance and actually making people go hypoglycemic with an increase of insulin response. Yep. Even when they're not eating bad food. So a lot of people say, I'm doing everything you're saying, Sara, and I'm not eating the sugar. I'm on a ketogenic diet and I'm gaining weight. Well, maybe it's because you're going hypoglycemic because of the spike protein. So that's just another one of those tweaks that you have to look at. But also the iodine, the Accelerated helps reverse that damage to the mRNA from that. And that's one of the very key ways to reverse that damage and also increase your thyroid function. And so I just wanted to throw that in because that is something brand new that a couple of years ago we didn't have to look at. And the radiation and toxicity are linked to depression, anxiety, and all the mental disorders. If you think about our cell phone, when you have it up to your head, right? I've got my head, here it is, and it's got a frequency. Okay, this frequency is near my brain, and my brain is a different frequency. And now my brain is trying to keep up or get adjusted to regulate with that phone. And it's causing all of this anxiety and depression. And you've got these kids that are on social media and their parents. So it's not just the kids.
Right.
And they're wondering why they have depression and anxiety. And then you can get into dopamine and addiction, and that's all related, right? So you've got, that's a whole nother topic that maybe we should talk about next time. But with that, it's affecting your thyroid hormones and leading to the mood disorders, the lower thyroid functions, and all of these thyroid medications are failing to address the toxins from radiation and halogens. So most thyroid medications, as you know, are inactive T4. Well, if our liver's backed up, that does us no good because there's no conversion. So liver's number one. And then you're not going to get a metabolism or mental or physical energy or immunity from a T4 medication. And they are not going to address the lack of iodine, and they're not going to address the ADHD or the gut. So you've got serotonin, which you were talking about, the happy hormone, and norepinephrine are positively correlated to T3. Then you've got acetylcholine and glutamate that are positively correlated to thyroid hormones as well. Long-term cortisol release inhibit T4 to T3. So for all those reasons, T4 medications are not going to address the need for free T3. And that dopamine, which I was just mentioning, which is our drive, our motivation hormone. I love dopamine and testosterone. Those are my two favorite, but it is positively correlated with T3 levels. And Parkinson's, interestingly enough, and restless leg syndrome are associated with low dopamine. So you can see that they can also be related to hypothyroidism. And that the Accelerated, the only iodine that is not radioactive, because most iodine has been contaminated from Fukushima or Chernobyl.
Mhm.
And they normally have to be broken apart from another molecule to be absorbed. So absorption normally is 10 to 20% with other iodine supplements, where Accelerated is 100% absorbed for all 100 trillion cells in the body, not just the thyroid, but the brain. That's why people, when they start taking it, they say, I feel like I'm waking up. And they feel like they're getting rid of the toxic people in their life, and they feel better, a lift in their mood.
Yep.
But the amazing thing, when I came out with the Accelerated Thyroid, and we were talking about teenagers, because I love the teenagers. They don't lie to you. They're completely blunt, and they say, because they won't follow through if
no filter.
it's not working. Right.
Yeah.
One teenager said, Sarah, I'm so happy. I can't believe how happy I am. She goes, that's the only change I've made. And she was one of those girls that missed school a couple days a month because of her period. So back to the hormones. She's like, the last 2 months, I have had no issue whatsoever. It was like a very minor PMS, nothing really to speak of. And normally her cycles are heavy, and it wasn't at all. So that was some really awesome feedback that I got on the Accelerated Thyroid. And she was also had just started the Accelerated too. So it's all in there, and the brain, the thyroid, it's all connected.
It's all connected. I know for me, there was, speaking of the T4 to T3 conversion, so many of my listeners know that I'm T3 only. So if you give me T4, and we all experiment on ourselves, any of us biohackers, especially if we're specializing in it like I am, I end up experimenting on myself. So one time I gave myself T4. I gave myself 25 micrograms of T4 in addition to the T3 that I'm on. And within days, because I don't convert, within days, I became depressed. And this round wasn't that bad. I kind of started to feel that hypo feeling coming on, and I just stopped it. There was another time where I dropped my T3 medication, and I only dropped it by maybe 1/8 of what my medication is, what the total dose is. In 1 week, I experienced what true clinical depression feels like for the first time in my life, because many of my patients would be telling me about it. And it's not that I was trying to induce this at all, but going through that low thyroid state, that hypothyroid state again, that I hadn't been in 15 years, it was very, very eye-opening, because I remember saying the words, this is what people are talking about when they say they can't even get out of bed. And not because of low energy. Obviously, like you said, Sarah, low energy, brain fog, how we feel about ourselves, if we're gaining weight, if we're losing our hair, that's going to make anybody depressed. But this was a true chemical imbalance. This was a depression that was not correlated with anything, not how I felt about myself, not my situation, not life. It was just a deep low. And as soon as I brought my medication up to what it should be, to my optimal therapeutic dose, it was gone. So yeah. I think it's very, very important that we tie and we come back to, you need to get optimized. And that might mean reducing your reverse T3 through the use of changing your medication and using iodine. I'm a huge proponent of that. One of the main causes of elevated reverse T3 is low iodine. We know that iodine is tied into brain development, because why is it in every single prenatal? Now, it's not necessarily in the right form in every single prenatal, but it's in there because we know if a pregnant woman has thyroid dysfunction or low iodine, you are at such a humongous increased risk of autism, developmental delays. It affects the baby's brain. So if it's affecting brain development of a fetus, what do you think it's doing to you to be not optimized with your thyroid, to be low iodine? It's not going to work to equate to a happy life. It's just not.
And I want to touch on that because iodine is so controversial. There are some very brilliant people out there that I am not taking anything away from, that are saying, don't take iodine or be very careful. And I want to direct you guys to some past conversations Amie and I have had, or to my website, sarabantahealth.com, and just search the topic iodine. And I have articles there that talk about studies and where it went wrong with the misinformation. I love that word now, right? About iodine. So that's another topic for another day. But the facts are there that we need the right iodine, not the toxic iodine. But then I want to touch on what you said, because you are optimized on T3 only. Now, for you, accelerated thyroid may or may not be right, but you could benefit from the Conchinara, which we will eventually have accelerated Conchinara, so people can titrate that amount up or down in addition to the accelerated thyroid. But for most people, what I've seen is it is actually getting people off their medication and it's replacing it. And it's because it's got the Conchinara, which that's an Ayurvedic herb. And this is something that I've been taking for years. So to optimize my thyroid, I've never been on thyroid medication. Number one, because no doctor really addressed it, but my practitioner put me on Conchinara, and then also put me on freeze-dried glandular, and then some other supplements to kind of optimize my thyroid. And that's why selfishly I'm like, we need to make a thyroid supplement that combines everything.
That's
right. But Conchinara is an herb that, as you know, and you've seen in the manufacturing of supplements in the last couple of years, because of supply chain issues, a lot of people or a lot of companies are going cheap and finding cheaper sources and that sort of thing. And we've even seen it in some of our favorite companies where they are sacrificing quality for the price. And I get it. I make supplements. I know the cost. My cost for this supplement more than doubled before it even came out. But we are not going to sacrifice the quality. So the Conchinara is all organic. We only use the concentrated extracts, but we also follow the exact formula percentages as written by the herbal master that created this. And a lot of the other ones out there have played around with it to make it so that it's a little cheaper and no one would know. But then we've got the freeze-dried glandular, and then we added in L-tyrosine, which is in the thyroid Fixxr. And the question sometimes comes up, can you be taking too much tyrosine? No, with those two, you are not getting close to what you even the upper limit at all. And tyrosine is needed for that T4 and T3. It's the T in the T4 and T3, and then you've got 4 and 3 molecules of iodine. So you need the tyrosine, you need the iodine. And tyrosine is needed for the L-dopa, the epinephrine, and the natural feel-good hormones. So it's really important for the mood. And then we put in L-threonine, which helps with, it's an essential amino acid, and it regulates protein balance in the body. But it helps prevent fatty liver, which we all want. And if you can't see your belly button, you've got too much visceral fat and probably a little fatty liver. And it helps with the connective tissues in the bones, which a lot of people don't know, that we need water, collagen, and L-threonine. And then it helps with mood support. So, first signs of threonine deficiency is sudden severe mood swings and irritability. And just ask your partner or the people that you live with if you have any of those things. I should probably not say this out loud, but he never listens to my podcast, so it's okay. My husband was doing a checklist for a blood test, and he was going down the list of, symptoms, and it said mood swings. He goes, no. I said, yes.
Wait a minute. You might want to check. Yes, honey.
Right. Check with the people that live with you on the mood swings.
Yep.
And then it also helps with digestion and B12 production, which is also very important for the energy as well. But what no other company does with any other thyroid supplement is the scalar enhanced frequencies. So what we've done is we've taken all these ingredients, made sure they're the best quality of quality, and then we enhance them with the scalar frequency machines that we have that are, the technology blows my mind even. And this is the same technology that we apply to the Accelerated, to the accelerated silver, the accelerated gold, and the accelerated detox powder. But the first code or frequency code is to heal the thyroid. So the cumulative effect, in contrast to thyroid medication, you're giving your body something and then your body says, oh, well, I'm getting that. I don't need any more. So maybe it'll actually stop producing what it's producing. The accelerated thyroid is helping to heal your thyroid, and your thyroid's the master endocrine gland affecting your adrenals and your gonadal system and all that. But then it's also, there's a frequency in there to detox the thyroid from all the heavy metals that we just talked about, the halogens, and also frequencies to detox the body and the thyroid of the radiation. So here we are in a world where we have so much radiation and toxicity, and that's why we need to be doing those liver flushes 4 times a year. I don't care how clean you're eating, but you have some frequencies going into the body telling your body, we need to let go of these halogens, we need to let go of this radiation, and healing the thyroid. And that's what I'm so excited about.
That's amazing. And I have never heard of Conchinara till you presented it to me and all the different benefits. And I totally understand the supply chain. And here's why I respect you. And I carry your products in my store. You carry mine in your store, because we know that you and I are all about quality. And we have experienced poor quality supplementation before. Either it doesn't do anything or it can do harm. So that's why I have always been a fan, even back when I was in my bodybuilding days. I remember telling clients, you want to buy even a whey protein powder, which I can't stand now, but even, if you're buying your protein powder, buy it from a company that's owned by a person, like Labrada Nutrition, back when Lee Labrada owned it, Gaspari Nutrition, when Rich Gaspari owned it. Don't buy from these mega corporations that are selling their shit to Walmart, because you're going to get that kind of quality. So the same thing applies here. Yes, there are some major brands out there of dietary nutritional supplements that I like and respect, and I know the quality is there, but I'm all about, it's kind of like buying local. Buy from people who can sit here and tell you everything they know about their product, how it's manufactured, the quality, the love that they put into it. And I think just even beyond the individual products, you have to look at the company as a whole, like us, and say, you know what? I know that these women are all about taking care of me. And you and I, Sarah, don't want people coming back saying, well, this didn't work or this caused a reaction. I mean, everybody might have a different experience, but if you get 50 of those, you kind of got to go, oh man, I got to get back to the drawing board. But we put so much love into our supplement line. It's high quality. It's very high quality. So now we've talked about the iodine before. I love that you mentioned, go back and listen to our interviews. Your website is loaded full of fantastic information on iodine. Where can we kind of find out more about Conchinara if people are interested in reading about that? Do you have any articles on your site on that?
I do. So if you go to the same site and you just research thyroid, you'll see the Accelerated Thyroid supplement blog, and it goes into major detail on Conchinara. So very amazing supplement. I love it because it also helps with, like I said, draining the dampness in the body. It helps with obesity, thyroid cysts and nodules, PCOS, liver cysts, even goiters, polycystic kidney disease. I mean, the benefits are amazing. Skin diseases, tonsillitis, uterine fibroids, ovarian cysts, and endometriosis. So these are things that, my daughters were taking because as preventative, because of the family genetics that we have as far as endometriosis and PCOS. I feel it. I feel a draining of the water, of the dampness that is related to kapha. If you're a pitta is more like a fire digestion. My husband's pitta, I'm kapha. That's why we're married. So you've got the fire. His digestion has always been awesome. Fat burning has always been good. He always had to wake up and eat right away. Whereas for me, intermittent fasting came really easy because I'm more kapha. Technically, I should be really lazy. I should be a couch potato, but I'm up at 5:15 and I'm doing some work. I'm in my garage working out.
Yep.
I'm a type A personality and I get a lot done out of my day. Yep. I feel amazing, Amie. And I've always been type A personality. So in my down days when I was bloated, hypothyroidism, PCOS, colitis, literally on the verge of Crohn's disease, heavy metals overloaded. It literally was my type A personality getting me out of bed to put one foot in front of the other. And now at the age of 47, life is fun. Yeah. I love my job. And something I wanted to touch on what you're talking about with us owning our own companies. I'm unfortunately and fortunately an empath. So if I get 1,000 people telling me they love my supplements and one person that doesn't, I take that to heart and I will look at it so deeply because I want to make sure I only offer the best of the best.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before I let you go, I think it's really important to touch on the glandular that's in your accelerated thyroid, because I can rewind. Oh my gosh. When I was working with my mentor, this is, 20 some years ago, and he had a nutrition store where, before you could order it online, you actually had to go to the store to buy your supplements. And I remember there is a thyroid glandular, and I looked at that and I went, it's only a matter of time before the FDA figures out that this is basically T4 and T3 in here. And I mean, thank God to this day, they haven't figured it out. But I think it's very, very important for those individuals that are on T4 only, especially those. Now, your accelerated thyroid, my thyroid Fixxr can be used by pretty much anybody, but especially those that are on T4 only. For God's sake, get some glandular in there, because if you're in a position where you can't work with me, you can't get T3, you can't get optimized, you add in a glandular like that's like what Sara has in her accelerated thyroid, it will help. It will help. I promise you. So if you want to expand on the glandular portion, go right ahead.
Yeah. So there's just a small amount of thyroid glandular to give the thyroid support. And we've found that most people need a little extra thyroid glandular extract to keep their thyroid and metabolism working at an optimal level. Especially in the last 2 years, hypothyroidism has gone through the roof, and the attack is on the thyroid. And we didn't even get into diet and some of the healthy foods that are attacking the thyroid. But each dose of accelerated thyroid has 100 milligrams of freeze-dried thyroid glandular extract per 3 capsules. So you can titrate down or up. And I am not your doctor, but I can tell you that a lot of my clients, with their doctor's advice, have gotten off of their medication easily and quickly, and actually have seen a huge difference in their weight loss, in their mood, in the effects of what they thought they were getting from their medication. Anyone on medication saying, well, I don't need this because I'm on medication, I want you to sit there and go, well, how do I feel? My labs may say this, my doctor may say I'm normal, but how do you feel? And I was talking to a teenager this weekend because she was asking me about what she should take versus what her doctor wants her to take. And I said, lesson number 1, I'm so excited for you to become your own doctor. You need to have that intuition to take what I'm telling you and what your doctor's telling you and what your mom's telling you and sift it through that brain and gut and feel what's right, but be really in tune with your body and listen to your body. It's not just about blood tests and about other tests. You need to know what is good for you. So anyways, that was just a sidebar, but most people are seeing an improvement and getting off their medication without a problem.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Well, Sara, I know you need to run. You have a recording to do as well, but thank you so much for jumping. I think this was a great conversation, especially touching on that anxiety, depression piece and how there's so many different things. I mean, we could do a part 2, which probably will have to on just that mental component of hypothyroidism, and even getting into, like you said, food and hormones and ferritin levels and all the things. So we will be back together again. But we will put the link in the show notes to your store and to Accelerated Thyroid. Thank you so much for being on here. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Amie.